Picture this. You've been married to your incredibly beautiful wife or your stunningly handsome husband for the past 20 years now. Most couples in just some time see the spark in their love life dim, but your spouse remains as breathtaking and as beautiful as they were the first time you saw them. Life feels perfect, but then tragedy strikes. One fateful day, while you're not home, a fire breaks out. Your spouse, fast asleep, takes too long to wake up and escape. They survive, but suffer severe, excruciating burns. You're relieved they made it through, but a deep sorrow grips you. Not only because of the immense pain and trauma they've endured, but because of their face and their body. They're burned now beyond recognition. The visage that once captivated you, that body that once you were physically drawn to, attached to, that you wanted to kiss without hesitation, today you find yourself unable to touch, let alone kiss them. It's as if this person that you loved so deeply no longer exists. How can you reconcile with this new disfigured reality? With the same beautiful soul that you cherished, you see no longer existing today. You feel wretched, but the truth is undeniable. This is the cruelty of life. Human beings, unfortunately, do pay a lot of attention to materialistic and physical attributes. Ladies and gentlemen, I know that was a kind of a heavy introduction because our today's topic of discussion is the Ship of Theseus. Now, before I begin, just so you know, this video is a part of the upcoming series where I talk about bizarre philosophical concepts and find out if there are any movies out there that deal with such concepts. Now, if it exists, we are going to analyze the movie, and if a movie does not exist, I'm going to try my best to come up with a fictional story which is going to, number one, boost my creativity skills and push it past its limit, and second, it will keep you guys entertained. Well, at least hopefully. So don't forget to subscribe to stay tuned. Now, moving on to the video. Imagine a ship sailing through the ages, its journey a testament to the resilience of its form and the enduring spirit of its crew. This vessel, the Ship of Theseus, is the heart of an ancient paradox that challenges our understanding of identity and change. In Greek mythology, Theseus, the legendary king and founder of Athens, embarked on a heroic mission. He rescued the children of Athens from the clutches of King Minos, having slain the dreaded Minotaur. Upon the return, they sailed on a ship bound for Delos, a journey that would be commemorated annually by the Athenians to honor Apollo. But over centuries of maintenance, as each plank and sail was replaced, a profound question emerged. After all its components have been replaced, is it still the same ship? This thought experiment, known as the Ship of Theseus, resonates deeply within contemporary philosophy. It probes the essence of identity over time and has inspired a myriad of theories in the philosophy of mind regarding the persistence of personal identity. Plutarch immortalized this paradox in his writings, recounting how Athenians preserved Theseus' ship. Each decayed plank was replaced with new timber. Philosophers debated whether the ship remained fundamentally the same. Over a millennium later, Thomas Hobbes extended the thought experiment. If the discarded planks were reassembled into a new ship, which vessel, if either, would be the original Ship of Theseus? Hobbes' reflection introduces two definitions of identity. the ship that contains the same form through the complete replacement of its material. And the second one is the ship made of the same matter which ceases to be the original one once any part is replaced. This paradox is a classic example of the puzzle of material constitution, which challenges us to determine the relationship between an object and the material form from which it is made. Philosophical interpretations vary. Some suggest that the material out of which the ship is made is not the same object as the ship itself. They simply occupy the same space at a different time. David Lewis's theory of temporal parts proposes that the objects can be divided into three-dimensional time slices, distinct at every point in time, avoiding the paradox of identical objects existing simultaneously in the same space. Cognitive science approaches the Ship of Theseus from a different angle. The paradox arises from extreme externalism, the assumption that our mental truths align with the external world. Noam Chomsky argues that this is a flawed assumption, as human intuition often errs. Cognitive scientists study this confusion to understand the brain's operations, shedding light on human perception rather than the external world's nature. This paradox finds echoes in cultures worldwide, tales of knives and axes that have had their blades and handles replaced multiple times, yet retain their identity, abound. From Giernot's knife in France to the family knife in Spain and Legis Kossuth's pocket knife in Hungary, the underlying question remains the same. Even in fiction, the Tin Woodman of Oz, once a man of flesh and blood, retains his identity despite all his parts being replaced by metal. Similarly, an ancient Buddhist text narrates a traveler's body being entirely replaced by demons, leaving them to ponder his true identity. In Japan, the Ise Grand Shrine is rebuilt every 20 years with new wood, its continuity derived from the sacred forest from which timber is sourced, symbolizing spiritual rather than material persistence. Now, before we dive deeper, I strongly recommend you to watch the movie The Ship of Theseus if you want to avoid spoilers. You can find it on YouTube with subtitles, and I'll also link the movie down in the description below. When I first stumbled upon the concept of The Ship of Theseus, I also discovered an Indian movie by the same name that beautifully explores this philosophical idea. Given the low budget of the movie and its philosophical nature, I knew it was going to be a gem of a movie, because low budget movies that deal with a philosophical concept are usually made by filmmakers who are somehow very good at their craft every time, according to my personal experience at least. And indeed, this movie is a gem. You should also check out other works by the director Anand Gandhi. While researching for this video, I found out that he also directed Tumbad, a psychological horror film I watched a few years back. And trust me, that movie was phenomenal too. The movie Ship of Theseus intertwines three profound stories. Firstly, we meet Alia Kamal, a celebrated Egyptian photographer who is visually impaired. She's about to undergo a cornea transplant that will restore her vision. The surgery is a success, and she begins to see the world around her for the first time. The scenes where Alia uses her photographic skills despite her visual challenges are captivating. It's fascinating to see her react to a world she has only heard about. Imagine seeing your own work with your own eyes for the very first time. Yet surprisingly, she becomes dissatisfied. She struggles to adjust to her newfound sense of sight, and her resulting photography fails to satisfy her, consuming her with frustration. Then we follow Maitreya, a learned Jain monk. Now, fun fact, Jainism is a very unique religion on its own, as it embraces an atheistic philosophy. Jains do not believe in God, but they believe in higher mortal powers, and they worship their divine teachers. Typically speaking, since most religions are theistic, it's quite fascinating to me that how Jainism is a non-theistic religion. But anyways, moving on to the topic. Maitreya is a staunch animal rights activist. During one of his court hearings to ban animal testing in India, he befriends a young law apprentice named Charvaka. Tragedy strikes when Maitreya is diagnosed with liver cirrhosis. He initially refuses to take animal-tested medication. His friend Charvaka tries his best to convince Maitreya to take medication, but Maitreya refuses. But as his condition deteriorates, he is forced to confront his beliefs. His health worsens and he endures unbearable pain. In a poignant scene, one of his devotees asks him about religion, specifically if the soul exists or not, and in his agony, he simply replies, "I don't know." This moment is significant. It shows a man whose suffering has led him to question his previously unwavering beliefs. Eventually, Maitreya gives in and accepts the medication, relying on the very practices he once opposed. Is he even the same person anymore? Lastly, we meet Navin, a young nihilistic and lazy Indian stockbroker who has just received a new kidney. He learns about an organ theft involving an impoverished bricklayer named Shankar, and he fears if his new kidney might be stolen or not. Discovering that the kidney went to a man in Sweden, Navin finds purpose in helping Shankar. He travels to Sweden and meets the kidney recipient, a man who had paid a large sum of money for the organ. Consumed by his guilt, this man offers to compensate Shankar. To Navin's shock though, Shankar prefers the financial settlement over reclaiming his kidney. Navin is left questioning whether his efforts for Shankar were worthwhile or not. This film concludes with Plato's allegory of the cave, suggesting that humans are imprisoned in their own perceptions, mistaking the transient for the permanent. The philosopher's role is to guide people out of this cave. In the final scene, we see the shadow of a man on the walls of a cave. This man who has donated his liver, kidney, and eyes, those who received his organs, Alia, Maitreya, and Navin, watch this clip. This man, only visible as a shadow, is never able to escape the allegorical cave Plato has described.